Dear students, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to deal with the lesson quality. Okay, so before you read, can a shoemaker be called an artist? Can we call a shoemaker as an artist? Yes, if he has the same skill and pride in his trade as any other artist and the same respect for it too. So, the lesson says that we can say a shoemaker as an artist. He is an artist. We can say that if he has the same skill and self-esteem, proud in his work. Mr. Gessler, a German shoemaker settled in London, is a perfect artist. So, in this lesson, in this story, the main character, Mr. Gessler, who is a German shoemaker living in London, we can call him a perfect artist because of the quality or the perfection of the shoes he makes. So read this story to see how he devotes his life to his art. Okay, we can through this story, when we read this story, we can realize how he dedicated his life to his art. Means his art is making shoes. Okay, so let's read the story. Quality. I knew him from the days of my extreme youth because he made my father's boots. The author knew this person, that is Mr. Gessler, the shoemaker, from his childhood itself because he used to make his father's boots. He lived with his elder brother in his shop, which was in a small by street in a fashionable part of London. So, Mr. Gessler lives with his elder brother in a small street in London. The shop had a certain quiet distinction. The shop is different from other shops because there was no sign upon it other than the name of Gessler Brothers and in the window a few pair of boots. There isn't any decorations for his shop. Okay, only there is only one signboard and on that there is only the name of that shop, that is Gessler Brothers, and we can see a few pairs of boots on the in the window. He made only what was ordered, and what he made never failed to fit. So he makes boots according to the orders, and the boots made were very perfect. To make boots, such boots as he made, seemed to me then and still seems to me mysterious and wonderful. And the boots made by Mr. Gessler seems to the author that it was very mysterious and wonderful. The boots were very perfect and wonderful. I remember well my shy remarks one day while stretching out to him my youthful foot. So one day the author went to his shop and said a remark, means said something, asked him something. Isn't it awfully hard to do, Mr. Gessler? Isn't it very difficult to make boots? He asked once. And his answer, given with a sudden smile from out of the redness of his beard, it is an art. Okay, it is an art. In German accent, it is an art. The German speaking people says like it is an art because he is a German citizen who lives in London. Okay, but he says that when the author asked such a question, isn't it very difficult to make boots? He only replied that it is an art. It was not possible to go to him very often. His boots lasted terribly. So when once he made boots, we need not to go often to his shop because it lasted long, having something beyond the temporary, some essence of boots stitched into them. So he used high quality materials to stitch his boots, to make his boots. So it lasted, it is lasting for a long time. Okay. One went in, not as into most shops, but restfully, as one enters a church and sitting on the single wooden chair, waited. So entering to the shop of Mr. Gessler is just like entering into a church. Okay, because the shop was that much uh, quiet, silent, and we can sit there restfully, very peacefully. A guttural sound and the tip-tap of his slippers beating the narrow wooden stairs, and he would stand before one without coat, a little bent, in leather apron with sleeves turned back, blinking as if awakened from some dream of boots. So as he waited for Mr. Gessler, he can hear the sound of his shoes beating on the wooden stairs. He will come from upstairs and he won't wear a coat. He was a little bent and he was wearing leather apron, and he will come when the customer is waiting for him. And I would say, how do you do, Mr. Gessler? Could you make me a pair of Russian leather boots? So one day he visited his shop and asked him, how do you do, Mr. Gessler? Mr. Gessler, how are you? Can you make me a pair of Russian leather boots? Without a word, he would leave me, retiring whence he came. So, without speaking anything, he will go back to the place from where he came and into the other portion of the shop, and I would continue to rest in the wooden chair, inhaling the incense of his trade. And he will go to the other side of the shop, and the customer, that means the author, wanted to wait in the wooden chair, inhaling, breathing the smell of his shop. Soon he would come back, holding in his hand a piece of gold brown leather, and after some time he came back to the author, and in his hand he was holding a gold brown leather. Leather is the material for making shoe. With eyes fixed on it, he would remark, what a beautiful piece. Okay, what a beautiful piece, he will say, looking at the leather. When I too had admired it, he would speak again. When the author also liked it, Mr. Gessler began to speak. When do you want them? Okay, that means when do you want them? And I would answer, oh, as soon as you conveniently can. And the author will said that as soon as you can possible. And he would say, tomorrow fortnight. Tomorrow fortnight. After 2 weeks I will give this. Or if you were his elder brother, I will ask my brother. Okay, if he gives order to his elder brother will say that I will ask my brother, that is Mr. Gessler. Then I would murmur, thank you, good morning, Mr. Gessler. Good morning, he would reply, still looking at the leather in his hand. So he won't speak a lot. He is always thinking about how to make beautiful boots. And as I moved to the door, I would hear the tip-tap of his slippers going up the stairs to his stream of boots. So whenever the whenever the author leaves, he can leave or move to the door, he can hear the tip-tap sound of Mr. Gessler going upstairs to make to his dream of boots, means to his world of making boots. He is always working. Okay, he is always thinking about how can he make good boots. It is his world, making boots. I cannot forget that day on which I had occasion to say to him, Mr. Gessler, that last pair of boots creaked, you know. So one day, this author cannot forget one incident. That is, one day when he visited his shop, he said to Mr. Gessler that the last pair of boots made by Mr. Gessler was creaking. Creaking means it make a noise, sound when walks. He looked at me for a time without replying, as if expecting me to withdraw or qualify the statement, then said, "It shouldn't have creaked." That means it shouldn't have creaked. But after, without saying anything, he said that it shouldn't have creaked. Okay. It did, I'm afraid. The author said that it happened. It has a sound and I'm afraid. And Mr. Gessler said that you got them wet before they found themselves. That means you got them wet before they found themselves. So Mr. Gessler said that you might have wet the boots. Okay, that is why it creaked. I don't think so. The author said that I don't think so. I didn't make any mistake. I didn't make it wet. At that, he lowered his eyes as if haunting for memory of those boots, and I felt sorry I had mentioned this grave thing. But when he heard such a complaint, Mr. Gessler became very sad, and he was thinking about that boots because he is making high quality boots. So when a complaint came, he became very desperate, sad. And the author also felt sorry for saying such a complaint because it hurts the shoemaker. Send them back, he said. I will look at them. So he said that send that boots back. I will repair it. I will look at them. Some boots, he continued slowly, are bad from birth. That means some boots are bad from birth. If I can do nothing with them, I take them off your bill. If I cannot do nothing with them, I will take off the money. That means I will return you the money for that boots. So that all these things shows that he was a very nice person. He make high quality boots, and he was very perfect in his work. Once only, I went absent-mindedly into his shop in a pair of boots bought in an emergency at some large firm. One day, accidentally, absent-mindedly, without thinking, thoughtlessly, he went into Mr. Gessler's shop, and he was wearing a pair of boots that bought from some large firm. So he was wearing the boots which is not made by Mr. Gessler. He took my order without showing me any leather, and I could feel his eyes penetrating the inferior covering of my foot. And he took the order from the author, and the author could realize that the person, Mr. Gessler, was looking at his shoes, new shoes which bought from other firms. At last he said, "Those are not my boots." Okay, at last, finally, Mr. Gessler said to the author that those are not my boots. These are not my boots. The tone was not one of anger nor of sorrow, not even of contempt, but there was in it something quiet that froze the blood. So, when he said, "Those are not my boots," he was not at all angry, not sad, and not contempt. Okay, but there is something in his tone that make us feel bad. He put his hand down and pressed a finger on the place where the left boot was not quite comfortable. He put his finger and pressed one of the part of the boot, and the other agrees that that part was not comfortable. "It hurts you here," he said. That means it hurts you there. Okay, it hurts you there. Those big worms have no self-respect. So he could point out the mistake of making that boots. Okay, one of the demerit of that boot. The other agrees also. That part, the place where he pressed his finger, it is not comfortable. So Mr. Gessler could understand that because he was a perfect shoemaker. So he says that it hurts you there, isn't it? And the big firms, they have no self respect. The boots buying from big firms, they are not good. And then, as if something had given way within him, he spoke long and bitterly. It was the only time I ever heard him discuss the conditions and hardships of his trade, and this was the first time he says about his business or the difficulties and problems in his trade business. "They get it all," he said. "They get it by advertisement, not by work." So he is talking about the big firms, big companies which make shoes. They get it all. They get it all by advertisement, not by work. The big firms, companies gives advertisement of their products, and seeing the advertisements, the people buy things from them. They are, but the products or the shoes made by such firms are not of high quality. They take it away from us who loves our boots. So the big firms take all the business that comes to these kind of shoemakers. So they are making high quality boots, but the people are not buying boots from such shoemakers. Seeing the advertisement, they buy shoes from big firms. Okay, it comes to this. Presently, I have no work. Every year it gets less. Okay, at present time I have no works because people are buying boots from big firms, and he was getting very less orders to make boots. And looking at his lined face, I saw things I had never noticed before. Bitter things and bitter struggle, and what a lot of grey hairs there seemed suddenly in his red beard. And that it was the first time the author noticed the appearance of the shoemaker. Okay, he was struggling to live. Okay, he had lines on his face because he was getting old, and he has a lot of gray hairs. His hairs are become white. Okay, he struggles a lot to make his livelihood. As best I could, I explained the circumstances of those ill-omened boots. So the author tried to explain why he bought such uh, boots, because it was in a case of emergency he bought it. But his face and voice made so deep an impression that during the next few minutes I ordered many pairs. So his face and voice were so pathetic, so sad. So the author, what did the author do? The author ordered many pairs of boots to help the shoemaker. They lasted longer than ever. Okay, the boots made by this shoemaker was very long lasting, and I was not able to go to him for nearly 2 years. So he ordered many pairs of boots, and all these boots lasted very long. So he could not able to go to the shop for nearly 2 years. So for these 2 years he need not buy a new shoe, because these shoes made by Mr. Gessler was lasted for nearly 2 years.